The second objective is to understand why and how today this right is a threatened right. Third objective, we want today to urge political authorities in Europe to assume their responsibilities and hold its consequences in making this right strong, secure, and guaranteed for all women and men in the EU. This right, dear friends, is the right to maternity support. Let me remind you of the binding text who proclaim and protect this right. The EU Charter of Fundamental Rights, Article 33. The Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, Article 163. And two EU directives, Pregnant Workers Directive and Work-Life Balance Directive. All those binding texts agree in saying that maternity is not only a personal issue, but one concerning all society. We will have the privilege today to be directly connected with reality, listening to amazing women who have a very special experience with vulnerable maternity and who agree to share today with us their testimony, their amazing experience of life. They accept to take this time, traveling hundreds of kilometers, to share an intimate and grave page of their own personal history. We urge today the European institutions from all political parties to listen to these courageous women, to be creative, to make this rate about maternity support not only best known, but real. Not only real, but concrete. Not only concrete, but effective. And not only effective, but functioning in all the EU. How will this conference unfold? First of all, some introduction and preliminary talks. Then we will have a first panel with 3 women coming from France, from the Netherlands, and from Italy. Just after this first panel, we will have a political analysis of the situation. A second panel will make us able to welcome 3 other women from Portugal, Spain, and Slovenia. A time for questions will come later, and then final remarks and closing remarks. First of all, I am very happy now to welcome our dear President, Professor Tonio Borg, President of One of Us. Tonio, please. Tonio, you are a Maltese lawyer. You served as European Commissioner for Health and Consumer Policy from 2012 to 2014. Previously, you were elected member of parliament of your own country and went on to hold several ministerial positions in Malta, Minister of Home Affairs and Justice, Deputy Prime Minister, and Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you, Tonio, to share now your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much for your introduction.
The bouton rouge, red, the red button.
And welcome to the European Parliament. As I said yesterday, malgré tout, in spite of the strike, in spite of all the difficulties most of you had to undergo to come here midweek. And when I asked myself, why have we gathered here today? Why did we leave our countries, our work, our studies to come to this event? And I think that the reason is that we want to send a message to the entire European continent. And this message is one of raising consciousness about the beauty of maternity and to consider it as a European value. Sometimes, even in this building, there is the tendency to promote exactly the opposite. We know that pro-choice organizations receive hundreds of thousands of euros to promote determination of maternity. We would like to promote maternity itself. Now, let me make it absolutely clear. Everyone has a fundamental right to choose whether to have children or not, and how many children one has to have. That is a fundamental human right. But it is important to create an environment where maternity is not considered as a problem, but as a value. And to do so, we have to promote a culture of life and not a culture of death. And I'm saying this because if you look at the media, social or otherwise, you feel certain prejudices against life, against the right to life. If you object to the termination of pregnancy, even when nurses and doctors exercise their freedom of conscience not to participate in abortion, they are considered as part of an old Finnish tradition. I was described as a dinosaur once because I promoted life, where if promoting life means that you are a dinosaur, I'm happy to be a dinosaur all the time. Now, one of the dangers, and I'm going to list some of the dangers which maternity faces, is the exercise of the freedom of conscience. And in some countries, that freedom of conscience of medical personnel not to participate in abortion is limited to the actual physical last act of termination of a pregnancy. When we know that abortion is not an instantaneous act, but it is a process, and we should defend the right, the freedom of conscience of medical personnel at every stage of that process. After all, when it comes to military conscription, we scrupulously apply the freedom of conscience. Why not in abortion as well? And this question of promoting maternity is not just an academic exercise. We did not come here to hear professors and lawyers and medical people give you lectures. In fact, we invited people who experienced abortion to address you. But you know that there is an initiative right now going on against maternity, whereby the European Commission is being asked to promote abortion, therefore suppressing maternity, to finance people in the EU to go to have an abortion outside their own country. There are countries like Malta and to a lesser extent even Poland, where abortion is restricted. In Malta it is only permissible if there is a risk to the life of the mother. And in Poland it is also restricted. So if this Commission were to accept this request of this kind of abortion tourism, I call it, it is abortion tourism, those countries which have restricted abortion will be forced to finance something which is illegal in their own country. Now, this goes against the cherished principle of subsidiarity. We say that the European Union is based on subsidiarity, that there are no-go areas, taxation, foreign policy, security policy, where you need the unanimity of all the member states. This initiative goes against the principle of subsidiarity. Because if, according to the treaties, each member state decides on its own how to deal with maternity, how to deal with euthanasia, how to deal with an abortion, how can they be forced against the principle of subsidiarity to accept to finance something which is illegal in their own country? Now, our organizations, the 50 organizations from 20 different countries, most of them are also, well, all of them are pro-life in the sense that we are not just against the termination of maternity, but we are in favor of maternity. And most of our organizations manage, at huge expense, maternity homes. So if pro-choice organizations are being financed by the European Union, why don't we finance also maternity homes where people who decide to have their baby and not to kill it will be assisted? In Malta, we have a maternity home. In Malta, we have a maternity home. I will describe its name in Maltese, Dar it-Tanniqa, which means the house of an embrace. We are embracing those who freely choose to have their baby, and we assist them before labor, during labor, and after labor itself.
Just
and
30 seconds.
Yes, and we also know that even those who have had an abortion, they describe that they were not free to do so. It was the economic conditions and other conditions which forced them to do what they would have preferred not to do. And this is important. And now I will conclude by referring to a Marxist, don't get shocked, to a Marxist intellectual, Italian, a film director, Pier Paolo Pasolini, who said, the legalization of abortion is the legalization of killing. And now is the most beautiful part. I lived my prenatal life, my happy immersion in maternal fluids. I know that then I existed. So my appeal to the young people present here, so there are some people like myself who have white hair, but there are a lot of people who are young and who have their future in front of them. And I urge you, fight for a cause which is greater than yourselves. Do not languish in apathy, seeking only pressing needs, wishes, and desires. Speak loud, sometimes even against the current, like Jérôme Lejeune did, in favor of the weak, the vulnerable, and the voiceless. Give voice to the unborn child by protecting and promoting maternity. The road will not be easy, but it will be worth the struggle. Let us therefore strive to say at the end of all this, we have fought the good fight, and that is the greatest satisfaction of all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tonio. I am very pleased now to welcome our three members of parliament who are the co-host of this event. Member of Parliament Peter Adjus from Malta, please come. Mrs. Laurence Trochu, please come, dear Laurence. Mr. Paolo Insalvini. And please, Mr. Berjan Russen, we are waiting for you too. And Mrs. Bernatu. Thank you very much for your presence here, who means so much for us. This event wouldn't have been possible with the support of Mr. Adjus, Mrs. Trochu, and Mr. Insalvini. Mr. Adjus, you have over 20 years of experience in the EU institutions and are currently following committees Internal Market, Public Health, Agriculture and Petitions. We are looking forward for your word or introduction word for this session, please.
Thank you, Ségolène. Thank you, Tonio. What a nice feeling to be here with you all, sharing a common objective today. I would like to start with, first of all, welcoming all our colleagues who here signify a cross-political, cross-issue support to your huge work in this cause which unites us. But secondly, I want to start with a personal thought, personal reflection. You know, when I was studying at university in Malta, I had this part-time job. I was a care worker in a residential establishment. And I remember there was this manager of mine, his name was Terry Gosden, who was raising small kids. And one day he told me it was a night shift, and he told me, when you think about it, being a parent is actually the most important job you will ever have. But it is the job for which you have no training at all. Very little technical support, very little professional mentoring. And I think this is the underlying theme we're discussing here today, which you very bravely, very intelligently put forward in your presentation of this conference. When I started having my own kids, I have 3 teenagers now, Terry Gosden's words came reverberating so frequently. When my kids, we had to decide when to get the first smartphone, especially in this digital world, how much time on computer, whether to get any energy drinks. Terry's words come back very frequently. And I see this in very stark contrast to what's happening right now in the European Parliament, whereas Tonio's always very wise words explained very clearly. In the European Parliament, we have this initiative in front of us, and a lot of MEPs are pushing it to become a European Parliament position. Basically saying that termination of pregnancies across borders should be a human right. And therefore, I could not, last week, there was this FAM committee meeting, the Committee for Women's Rights and Equality. And even though I'm not member of FAM, I wanted to be there. I wanted to voice my perspectives. Because this citizens' initiative is speaking about Malta, our country, after all. And you should know that in Malta, the government tried to push abortion, notwithstanding not having an electoral mandate for that. And it was only thanks to the courage of people like Miriam from Life Network and Suzanne. I think they deserve our applause, because what they did single-handedly against a media loaded with a lot of pro-choice messages, they managed to fight back and say, we are pro-life. We don't want termination of pregnancies here in Malta. And now I feel very, very odd to see these institutions that I love, the European Parliament that I love, that I want to use for the benefit of my people, promoting what they actually fought against. They want to impose it across borders. So I say, we cannot allow this. We cannot allow this. And I think there is a lot of common determination here in all political groups that we need to master. And we need to do it quickly. So I think there has never been a more timely event and discussion, a more important discussion that we are having today, where we loudly acclaim real choice means real support. Thank you, everyone. I need to follow another meeting, but I'll be back. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Adjus. Thank you for your...
Because the leader of the opposition of Malta, the new leader, who is only 30 years old, is at the building, and Peter Adjus has to accompany him. Perhaps he will have the opportunity even to spend some minutes with us, but we'll see, because he has a lot of meetings. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you so much. Chère Laurence, vous êtes...
Laurence, you are a French politician, You were elected as the head of the Conservative movement, and in 2024 you were elected to the European Parliament. You have responsibilities in a number of committees, FAM and ENVI. You are an activist, and you are working on all fronts to support the freedom of women in Europe. Thank you for being here today, Laurence, and thank you for your enormous activism and commitment.
Je m'exprimerai en français.
I'll be speaking French this morning, and Ms. Trochu kindly thanks the interpreters for this service. Now, one of us and all of the representatives and for the Marche for the Vie, members of the European Parliament, I was so pleased to be called to be a part of this event and so pleased to know that it would be held within the European Parliament. We are not afraid of words, and that means that we are here to fight. For a fight that is highly political, and it is a fight that is one in truth. It is the fight for life, the fight for life. Via the testimonials that we will have, we can see that there is a new reality, a different reality than what we commonly hear. Freedom of women, when it comes to abortion, is frequently something that is a trompe-l'oeil. There is pressure from families, from the social sector, from economic aspects. It doesn't allow for choices. There are promoters of abortion en masse. Today, the work in the European Union show that there is a frontal attack on the subject of abortion. There are negotiations that are extremely hard in the directive of victims' rights, and a promotion that is incomprehensible after the petition, My Voice, My Choice, that we are currently debating here in the European Parliament. I remember on Monday in the FEM committee, we were debating that. What they're trying to do is really get around, that's what's serious here, get around the laws of our member states for an objective that has been clearly announced, an increasing number of abortions. Now, the testimonials that we hear are often hard to hear. They lift the veil on a masked reality of those who call themselves pro-choice. They show also the urgency for putting into place support in maternity wards for the psychological and physical support of our women and this across the continent. Thank you to the organizers for this invitation, for their courage, the courage and the convictions that we all share. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Laurence, et je remercie nos amis députés présents.
Thank you, and I would like to thank our fellow MEPs, Ms. Lexman, a true friend for one of us. You're very welcome.
Nous sommes tous impatients.
We are keen to hear from the women who have joined us this morning. Thank you to the MEPs for a very brief introduction so that we have time to hear from our witnesses this morning. Panel, you are co-hosts for this conference. You are true friends to one of us. You work on motherhood and fatherhood. Thank you to your team, Francesco Carboni, who has helped us to organise this conference. Now over to you.
Grazie mille.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you. Thank Tonio Barg, our chairman, and I'd like to thank everyone present here. It's wonderful to see hundreds of people here proving the beauty of life and resiliency too, seeing that that's a buzzword in Europe today, the resiliency of those who don't want to surrender to this death culture. So I'd like to thank the co-hosts. I'd like to thank Vice President Sperna, Emilia Lexman, and my colleague Ryson. And I'd like to thank one of us, and he who contributed to setting up this association over 10 years ago, and with his trying to protect life, another Italian, Carlo Casini, and I'd like a round of applause for him. today we are here to listen to testimonials of truth, of life. Unfortunately, we too often have to submit to the lies of those who want to get us used to throwing away discarding older people and people who are now trying to deal with the difficult time of their life. Now, when I was 17, I decided I would start fighting this battle for defending life. It's a priority. We must not forget that within a woman's womb there is a human life right from the first day. When I mentioned this within these walls of the European Parliament, one of my first speeches, on the left, and not only the left, they were ripping their hair out. And not only that, because they were not used to hearing speeches about life, but they have to get used to it, because most people, the majority of the population, the majority of young people are opening their eyes, and they know what reality is and what the truth is within their hearts. And our duty as politicians and people committed in this way is that of opening the way and give courage to all those who are silenced, because at this historical moment in time, there's this risk too. Free speech, the possibility of saying what we believe and testifying to freedom and life are all being limited, but we can't surrender to this. We must honour those who, within the walls of the European Parliament, Pope Francis, reminded us that the human being runs the risk of just becoming a cog in the wheel of a system, just something that can be used, and when it is no longer useful, is discarded. Just as the case of older people, the elderly who are abandoned, terminal patients, and of course unborn children. Now, Pope Leo XIII reminded yesterday our President of the Republic, Sergio Mattarella, and all the political life in Italy about assisted suicide. Now, we need to consider this too, because we're here in favor of life. Now, I want to tell you here, we're trying to talk about very important subjects. We're building, but we must remember our foundations, and these foundations are non-negotiable, nor can there be any compromises. And we're here to testify to this. And now we're going to listen to the voices of women who are representing very strongly our message. Thank you.
Grazie, Mr. Insolvini.
Thank you.
It is now to welcome Miriam Lexman. Miriam Lexman, you are a member of parliament from Slovakia. You are the caster of the European Parliament and member of both Committee on Foreign Affairs and Committee of International Trade. Re-elected in 2024, you has long been dedicated to advocate for the defense of human rights and human dignity. You were awarded for the Mother Teresa Prize by the International Catholic Legislators Network in recognition of your leadership in promoting the protection of human life and dignity. As a Casablanca Declaration signatory, you are an ardent supporter of the global ban on surrogacy. And as a former Slovak diplomat, Miriam, you also worked in civil society with international institutions to advance freedom, democracy, and human rights. Thank you so much, Miriam, for your support. And we know that plenty of Slovakian people are able to be here today thanks to your help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all of you who are supporting life in Europe, because the dignity of every human being is the goal of policy and the protection of the dignity and rights of every human being. It's more than 10 years ago when one of us collected hundreds of thousands of signatures across the European Union asking that the EU will obey its own laws and obey its own principles and rules. We haven't succeeded until now. It's 10 years we are trying. And thank you very much, Ségolène, and to one of us for all this effort, to Mr. Borg for supporting and being the leader of one of us. Thank you to Paolo, Bertian, Antonella, and other actors, Peter, who has, I think, had to leave, but there is also the former Prime Minister of Slovenia, Alojz Peterle. Thank you, because he was there. Mr. Mikolášik, the Slovak former member of the European Parliament and very active person, one of us. Thank you. There are many, many of us, not only in this room, but in Europe, and we have to make our voice being heard. Because 10 years after our fight for the protection of human dignity and European laws to be protected and to be obeyed, we have another citizens' initiative which goes and asks to breach the European laws. And suddenly, Europe accepts it, accepts these voices which are lying about the human dignity, about the main principles in our legislation. And this is relativism. The Pope Benedict XVI said that when relativism prevails, that's a new form of totality. Today, unfortunately, Europe is relativizing what is human dignity, what is freedom, what are our main principles. This relativism is a way of totality. That's the way of extremism and totality, and not people who are believers, who are faithful and fighting for life, as the new publication which was promoted at this house, the House of European Citizens, called The Next Wave, How Religious Extremism is Regarding Power. They are calling us extremists, those who are breaching European laws, who are breaching European principles, and the main principle of mankind, which is the protection of human right and human life and human dignity. I would like now to thank one person in this plenary, and that's my husband, but he's not here only as my husband. He's here as the leader of the Christian Democratic Movement of Slovakia. We have now concluded the constitutional changes to protect human dignity in the Slovak constitution and to protect the European law, which is bound on subsidiarity in the Slovak constitution. Milan is sitting there modestly in the back. The Slovak constitution now is saying exactly what the EU law says. What belongs, the cultural, ethical, moral, family issues belong to the competence of member states. We say only this, nothing more. We only say that the unhuman practice of surrogacy has to be banned, that children are not products, children are human beings. Even unborn children are human beings. And despite of the fact that the Slovak constitution, thanks to the enormous effort of our party, says only what is in European and international law, the hatred which is now against my party and us, you cannot imagine, or you can probably imagine because you are experiencing the same in your countries. But the hatred is nothing when we know that we are trying just to protect the truth which tells us the truth about mankind, the truth which is revealed truth for the Christians, but is a natural truth for every person who has an open look for how human beings are being treated, and to see that every human being, from conception to natural death, deserves dignity and protection of his or her rights and rights which are enshrined in the laws, but also natural rights. And I will finish coming back to the words of Benedict XVI about the new wave of totality, which is relativism. Because relativism also is changing the meaning of freedom. But we know that democracy is only about freedom. If democracy is not based on freedom, it's not democracy. And freedom is about free choice, and the real choice means real support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And you remind us that in One of Us, we not only share fights, but very good news and very good support as Slovakian constitution now. And it's very important for us to give us courage and strength to be able to continue to fight for life. I am very pleased now to welcome Berjat Russen. And Tonio remind me that the ECR group is organizing from Berjan belongs to, is organizing 29th of November, 19th of November, a big conference about surrogacy to be able to continue the commitment to forbid surrogacy absolutely from the European institutions. Dear Berjan, thank you very much to be here today. You are a Dutch member of the European Parliament for ECR. One of your main goals in the Parliament is to defend the sanctity of life, to promote family values, to protect religious freedom and speak up for vulnerable people. You hold a key position and you are involved in monitoring human rights, using your roles to bring a strong moral voice to the EU debates. You are a faithful defender of human fragile life. Thank you for your courage, Berjan.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for this great event and for the initiative. Thanks, One of Us, for organizing this. It's really good to see so many friends here in the room. Friends all supporting life, and especially the life of unborn children. I think it's really good to talk about maternity support. That's a focus of the conference of this day. Because here, talking about maternity support, two important perspectives come together beautifully. The care for the mother, but also the care for the child. And of course, also the care of the father was also involved, of course. My wife and I recently became grandparents again. Our grandson was baptized on Sunday, very special moment, to be honest. And what I did on Sunday, I asked my daughter-in-law what she thought of the support she received. And she said to me, well, in my situation, it was, to be honest, fantastic. Great and expert guidance from the midwife. And during the delivery in the hospital, everything was also very professional, nothing but praise. So, talking about maternity support, we are not talking about, let's say, a black and white discussion. We cannot say that the situation is bad everywhere. But the question is, how about support provided to women who are not so happy with their pregnancy? For whatever reason, unwanted pregnancies. I'm much less positive about that. Or to put it in another way, I have major concerns about this. And I think that's what we should be talking about today. Because unfortunately, for these women, what's the solution that is very often offered? That's a solution which is not a solution, but that's a solution of abortion. The threshold for choosing an abortion has been made, especially in my country, very, very low. The legal consideration period has been abolished in my country. So if you choose an abortion today, it can be arranged tomorrow. That's the world we are living in. Do abortion facilities provide you with information about alternatives, about maternity support, about possibilities to overcome specific concerns, for example, related to socio-economic situation of the mother, concerns about the financial situation, concerns about housing and so on? I'm afraid that's not the case. And that's very sad. Apparently, the only thing that still matters here is care for the mother, the so-called right of the mother to make their own choice. Where is the care for the child here? That has completely disappeared. And therefore, every reason, in my opinion, to talk today about maternity support. And especially for those women who are struggle with their pregnancy, to help them, to show them that abortion is not a solution. They too have the right to get access to support that focus on both mother and child. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Berdan. I am sure in the future, one of us, in the very short future, one of us will have a new conference about exactly what you said. I am very, very honored now to welcome Mrs. Antonella Sberna. Antonella, you are an Italian politician, member of Fratelli d'Italia and of ECR. You were elected to the European Parliament in 2024, and you became a vice president of the European Parliament. We are so honored with your presence here. Thank you, Antonella. Your political path is inspiring. Before becoming a member of European Parliament, you worked in public administration, served as councillor responsible for social services, youth and family policies in Viterbo, and has been engaged with institutional communication and European affairs. You are a strong voice for women, families, youth, regional communities, combining legislative roles with a focus on equality, social inclusion and subsidiarity. Thank you so much to be here with us today, Antonella.
Grazie per l'invito.
Thank you for this invitation, and I'd like to thank the colleagues for having promoted this morning's discussion. I'd like to thank the One of Us Foundation for the daily work in Europe and outside of Europe. I'd like to thank everyone, and also I'd like to thank a lot of the young people I see here, especially in the first rows, because this means that this is an intergenerational discussion. There's a strong awareness everywhere which sees us all committed, all in the front lines. Today we will hear the stories of various people here. It's not just a conference of the association and institutional representatives. You will be bringing actual experiences and talking about the difficulties you've had to face, the opportunities, the struggles, also the way to deal with them. As institutional representatives, I think we have the duty to listen, understand, and interpret what we are dealing with. Even for the our institutional position, the presentation that was made earlier, I was vice president had various duties. The European Parliament, also being present, for instance, at the week for Europe, and all these points that are put within the European Parliament in the institutions, and are based on social context, companies, public administration, the business world, everything made available to encourage equality. And a great part of this discussion is concentrated on family policies, policies for conciliation. On the one hand, we're talking about protective life, but then we have to make our society capable of dealing with these new lives, because if we can't, and we are politics, we do have a certain voice, but we also have tools to do this. And I think that is the objective, really. If we don't create a context, a situation, the possibility, talking about the right to stay, which is one of the themes of cohesion policy. It's a third of the EU budget, actually. So a little aside on this. Our commitment is really on subjects and themes and what we can actually do to support our values. So the right to stay, what does that mean? It means creating the condition for all young people, all families, all people to choose what to do, where to do, and how they want to do it. They want to stay in their city of birth. They want to study and go and live there. We have to create the services, creches, kindergartens, financial support, public transport, digitalization, all the conditions which will give us the freedom to choose. And the freedom of choice depends also on the context in which we find ourselves. So our great commitment, and I have here my colleague Lechman and Mr. Salvini, and we're talking about something that is being done within the European Parliament. So we're trying to consider democracy as a tool for social development. It's pointless to produce European legislation without European citizens. And these European citizens have to be put in a situation whereby they can live comfortably within our societies. With the principle of subsidiarity we keep talking about is something really fundamental. The EU must create frameworks, opportunities, guidelines, and then the member states have to be able to invest policies and funds within their own context. I'd like to challenge everyone present here to tell me about their city, their country, what differences there are compared to the person sitting next to you. But if the principles are the same, if the opportunities can be the same, then it should be possible to do it the way you want. And that is our duty, to be here, to be present, to discuss things, exchange our experiences, assess it, and look at it within our mission, within the institutions. I conclude, and I'd like to thank you again for this opportunity. I keep talking about Familyville. Now, what is this new word? Well, we've had 10 years of different of European policies based on the Green Deal. Now, you can agree, you can disagree, but we've got to change perspective. We've got to start paying attention to families. Policy that talks about motor vehicles, energy, emissions, that is the first thing. But what is the importance of that when you're looking at the development of a family? The possibility of encouraging social ecosystems within the context in which they are working. So that's the idea of creating an alliance between people who don't only want to see a continent which is increasing in size, which is being peopled, that people are respected, the dignity of life is respected, but who also have the hope for a future. So they need that hope again, which is at the basis of the work we can carry out with our colleagues. So again, thank you for this opportunity, for welcoming you, and I hope we have a fruitful meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Antonella.
Thank you so much to all of us, members of the European Parliament. We feel stronger in one of us, and with all the NGO members of one of us, with your support. And we know now that together we could do great things. It's time now to welcome our friends, to welcome you, Charlène, Nirvana, and Soemia. Please come and take place here. Maybe to take their place. Without you, this conference would not have been possible. You agreed to share your own experience about maternity, about abortion. Thanks to each of you for your courage, your resilience, and your trust in us. And I am inviting Mr. Insalvini to lead this first panel now.
Grazie nuovamente.
Thank you again to all of you, and thank you to the colleagues that moderated this first section of our event. Now we are going to get into the key moment of our event, the testimonials. We said that we're not here just to have statements of principle. We wanted to get into the experiences of people, strong women that are here to bear testimony of their experience of life. And we will do it with people who have experienced challenges, difficulties, and frequently they were able to feel firsthand the lack of support from institutions. And then we will do it via an example of help, an individual and organizations who are there to support, to stand with these women, these people, and these children, these families. Why? Because in the European Parliament, we talk much about the rights of women and the rights of mothers. But what is the veritable right? To be left, abandoned, or to be supported? That is the question that we are posing today. So first and foremost, I'd like to welcome Charlene. She welcome you. You are the mother of 3 children, 39 years of age, a professional activity, and you had an abortion, and you speak out against International Planned Parenthood Federation. We too have spoken out against them at the European Parliament. It's not just a lack of trust, it's that they're not assisting, helping people to have free decisions. And even they pressure them to decide to discard. They decide for death. So we are pleased to have your testimonial today, and we can see how some associations unfortunately try to force people to make the decision when the time is to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Honourable members, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Charlene, and today I am going to talk to you about an abortion that was subjected that I underwent when I was 27. I was a mother. I did not choose it. It was forced on me. I was a young woman of my time, modern, independent, convinced that abortion was justified. I was in a serious relationship, and my pregnancy was not an accident. When I told my partner the news, he panicked and pushed me to go for an abortion. I loved him. I thought that we both had the wherewithal, were old enough to be parents. I really did not want an abortion. With the first doctor we both went to see reacted to my refusal and asked whether I was religious. It wasn't faith or dogma. I don't think you have to believe in God to want to protect the life you're carrying. We were referred to a family planning psychologist to help us talk through the issues, find a solution together. But I did not perceive this person as a neutral third party. When I talked about the baby I was expecting, her categorical reply was, "You cannot talk about a baby. It is a mass of cells." I stuck to my guns, but she still booked the appointments needed for an abortion. This woman never listened to me. She was not concerned about how this unwanted abortion would affect my mental health. As for the family planning doctor, she could not understand my question when she gave me the pill to take the night before the abortion, and I asked whether I could still change my mind afterwards. The night before the abortion, I was to take that pill to make it easier to evacuate my baby. I was 2 hours late taking the pill. I was lying on the bathroom floor crying. My partner was very insistent. Put the pill to my mouth, and I was exhausted after a month and a half. The following day at the clinic, I took another 2 pills. I saw myself drained of my lifeblood of my child. The intern smiled and said that that would make things easier. It was a very cosy atmosphere. I was offered an electric blanket. Everyone was very nice, well-intentioned. They were so certain that this was the right decision. But I didn't want it. Family planning knew that this was not my wish. I did not have control of my own body. That evening I was left alone, no follow-up. The problem had been dealt with. I was alone in tears, in the midst of appalling anguish, a gaping void. I felt that I had lost a child, that I had already been a mother, and the burning question that ran through my mind was, what sort of mother was I to have gone along with this? Now, you may wonder, why did I not flee? Why did I not storm out of the family planning offices? Why did I not immediately leave my partner? Why did I continue to go along to all these appointments so docilely? I think I was playing for time, hoping that we would get beyond the legal limit. But the family planning psychologist was in a rush. And 10 years on, I cannot understand why this woman piled on the pressure, never listened to me. She was supposed to defend women's rights. I cannot understand why she did not take me through the alternatives to abortion. There seemed to be only one option here, as if my pregnancy was a problem to be eliminated. Abortion, my body, my choice. That is the family planning slogan. But I can tell you here and now that abortion was not my choice. A few weeks later, I did flee, but it was too late. I left my partner, moved 400 kilometres away. I could not stay where I was. I plunged into a deep depression. My companion, my partner and I had disagreed on my pregnancy. I was no longer pregnant, but the problem was by no means solved. I was in pain for years. I mourned for years. It took me 5 years to seek support, because to look for support, I would have to recognise that I had lost my child. And it took me years to face that reality. Ladies and gentlemen, honourable members, I am here to appeal to you to support, protect the rights of women under pressure, whether that's pressure from their partners, their family, or professionals who are supposed to listen to them if they want to continue with their pregnancy. Train medical professionals, social workers, so that they can see cases, identify cases of coercion. In Europe in 2025, a woman who says that she does not want to go through with an abortion should be listened to. That is part of women's rights. Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you very much, Charlene. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your strength. I think that I can only really try to understand the pain that you have experienced, and to stand up here and express it to all of these people, and how you tried to overcome that pain that was brought to you by, on the one hand, your partner, your companion, And I'd just like to recall here that yes, men and fathers have to take their responsibility. They cannot leave the women that are at their sides, but alone. And then, on the other hand, those that should have supported you in bringing your baby to birth and not force you to discard. Now, it wasn't a question of freedom, but rather a question of constraint in your case. Now we will continue with another guest. A devoted mother, a passionate entrepreneur, a resilient woman, Nirvana, and I'd like to give the floor straight away. Go ahead. Thank you.
I am Nirvana. 7 minutes for a life of 34 years. When I started preparing this, I walked through the last 15 years of my life. I didn't expect the emotions to hit this hard. Listening to myself and to the moments and the years I've had to pull myself through was heavier than I imagined. I'll take my shoes off. Sorry. I am a mother of 4 children, 15, 9, unborn, and 2 years old. My child in heaven, I love you. Oh, sorry, I didn't expect this. It's not possible to stand, right?
Yes, of course.
Is it okay?
Stand.
Sorry. Okay. My life has been filled with deception, betrayal, injustice, aggression, and manipulation, but also with laughter, with joy, with strength, playfulness, and so much discipline, with sadness and standing alone, and still moving forward. I was 18, and something fell off. My period didn't come. A week, 2 weeks, could it be? I bought a pregnancy test. I was ashamed. I had never done anything like that before. I read the instructions, peed on the stick, positive. I didn't believe it, so the 4th and the 5th test, then I knew for sure, I'm pregnant. What do I do now? I'm still in school. I work nights and weekends. I have a boyfriend, but we never talked about children. Who can I talk to? My mother? No. My father? No. My boyfriend? Maybe. So I went to my aunt, the one I could always turn to. She looked at me and said, "You're not pregnant, are you?" I froze, but secretly I felt happy. I smiled and nodded. She smiled back and said, "Congratulations." Tears filled my eyes because I didn't know what to do. But I heard it. Congratulations. She supported me. When I told my mother, she said, the same age I was. I felt small, no pride, no voice. And my father said, as long as the child doesn't look too much like you. Wasn't something I could smile about, though. The father of my child worked at McDonald's. I went to him, stood in the line at his register. He looked at me. I smiled. He turned away. Later in the car, he asked, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm keeping the baby." And he said, "Then you leave me no choice." So I said, there's always a choice. But whatever you choose, whatever choice you make, you stand by it. That's how I live. When I make a choice, I commit. Left, right, 100 turns around, I will do this. My daughter was 2 months old. Her father sat next to me, and he said, "I'm done." Stood up and walked away. It took me a while to realize I'm alone. 24. At first, I wanted nothing to do with him, but somehow he found his way in. A year and a half of fighting, shouting, blood, broken glass, hands around my throat. Fear. I had never been that scared in my life, fighting in a small room. Nowhere to run. When my son was 4 months old, he left too. And there I was, 25, a 6-year-old daughter, and a 4-month-old son. Family too busy, and all help gone. Truly on my own. Years of anger and learning to regulate myself. Re-regulate, keep going. School, work, growth, survival. After years, I met someone new. And again, deceit. Boundaries crossed. A few months later, I was pregnant. We had agreed no children. But the conception wasn't my choice. My boundaries were ignored. 2 weeks later, I knew. Pregnant. And that feeling I knew too well. Panic, tears, doubt. I had been through an abortion before. The abortion would have been my 3rd child. That pain still lived in me. One whole day I went back and forth. I can't do this. I will do this. I can't do this. I will. Every 5 seconds it changed. Until I said, whatever he chooses, I'm getting on this roller coaster again. And I'm not getting off. Then came, there is hope. There is help, a foundation. At first, just emails. I thought I'd just vent and move on. But near the end of my pregnancy, Nirvana, I want to do something for you. You're strong, you're practical, but you don't have to do it all alone. We sponsor women like you. And for the first year and a half, I got help, diapers and baby food. It was such a relief. Still, I had to keep everything going, school, daycare, work. There was never a moment I said, yes, I want children. But 4 times I was given this gift. 3 times I chose to take responsibility. And the 1 time I didn't, I kept a promise I'll never make again. For 15 years, I've carried everything alone. Mother, entrepreneur, a sister, being a daughter. I try to contribute to this world, and I give it everything I have. But honestly, Sometimes I push myself too far. I worked, I cared, I studied, I reinvent myself again and again, just to keep things moving. My children see how hard I work. I hope one day they'll know. Their mother did everything she could to give them a chance. But I wish I didn't have to do it all alone. None of the fathers look after the children. No time, no money. And somehow that's fine. Because as a mother, you become a private detective fighting for what your children are entitled to, a father. And with everything else I do, that's one thing I just can't add on top. And then came the questions I can't ignore. How is it that fathers can create life, but have no real duty to take care of it? How is it that a mother is automatically responsible? Financially, emotionally, practically, while a father can just walk away? How is it that fathers must apply for custody when the child is as much as theirs as the mother's? And how can a judge decide the child support starts after 6 months, while the mother's been paying for everything, pregnant, sick, exhausted, working until she collapses? And this is not just my story. This is a system that leaves mothers vulnerable. As I speak this, I feel anger. Anger for all I have to carry, but also strength and love. The will to show my children that you can fall and still rise again. Motherhood is raw and beautiful at the same time. It's fighting, crying, laughing and moving forward. It's falling and rising, but never letting your children fall. But everything I've just told you are only fragments of 34 years. Who am I today? I'm an enthusiastic, passionate woman, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a security professional, a childcare provider, an NLP coach and trainer. I teach first aid, emergency response, and aggression management. And I create my own projects and trainings to empower others, young and old. We all have strength within us. And sometimes we just need a small push. Someone who helps us see things differently. Someone who believes in us. I am Nirvana. Thank you.
Grazie, grazie di cuore.
Thank you. I'd really like to thank Nirvana for her story, so genuine, open and transparent, and I think it was moving for all of us. You have stressed how men and women have to be have co-responsibility for the children. You told us about your road, your difficult road, but also the story of someone who grew near to help you. Now I'd like to invite the next speaker, Soemia Sibilio. I hope I pronounced her name properly. She's from the Institute Mangiagalli in Milan. There are cases when people spend themselves, they dedicate them entirely for the good of children and women. And now we listen to you and your experience. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity of bringing here the voice of those who have no voice. Today I'd like to share my experience, my daily experience at the Centre for Help to Life in Mangiagalli in Milan, which is a pro bono association, and the commitment of over 400 centres throughout Italy, which are part of the Movement for Life in Italy and of the One of Us European Federation. For 50 years, they've been welcoming women who have difficult, unexpected pregnancies or that they don't know how to deal with it. Daily, we meet women with different stories, with doubts. Our duty is to offer, right from the first meeting, listening without judgment, support and comprehensive, made-to-measure support so that no woman will feel alone in such a moment in her life. The Centre for Help to Life is an actual area where fragility is welcomed and where the person is important before the person's condition. Every day we open our doors without knowing who will enter, young women or older women, Italian or foreigners, students, workers, people who are out of work, who are engaged, who are married, have a boyfriend, who are expecting their first child or their second, third, or even their fourth child. Each of them with their life, with their experiences, their situations, their difficulties, but all of them with this common feeling of solitude. This is a condition at all ages, all social classes, all working conditions. We often hear these women, they looked for it. They should have thought about it before, or that they are unlucky. And many limit themselves to saying, oh, it's their problem. They have to just deal with it. We are used to thinking that these are facts that have nothing to do with us. But if we were to look a bit closer and we would be more silent and we were less judgmental, we would understand that those difficulties are ours too, and that they are closer to us than we might think. I'm thinking of some of the stories I heard in our centre. The day this mother turned up with two small suitcases saying, this is all I own. I'm pregnant and I don't know where to go. She was welcomed in one of our apartments and a beautiful little girl was born. I think of that couple after the diagnosis of a severe malformation of the child. She found herself alone. They were alone, without support, and with the advice from doctors and friends to have an abortion. We welcomed them in our place. They chose for life. They were aware of the difficulties and the possibility that that child might not make it. Today, that child, after various surgeries, is recovered and is well. And then again, how can I forget the mother who, finding herself pregnant, was suddenly abandoned by her partner, without a home, without a job. She too said yes to life. She had got her diploma a few weeks from the birth. Today she has a little girl, she has a job, and she's bought her first house. All these mothers arrived with one doubt. They thought they could not make it. Their friends, their families, society had made them believe that they were not capable of carrying forth a pregnancy in the situation in which they found themselves. When they come to us, they don't talk about their embryo or their fetus. They say clearly, my child, my son. And they add that they don't feel free. How can a choice made in fear and isolation be considered free? How can we talk of freedom when a woman is left alone, without a house, without a job? When a career is called into question just because you're pregnant, when all the voices around us suggest that the most reasonable solution is give up, when a student receives pressure from her family to have an abortion so as to not ruin her future, when a couple with 3 children who doesn't have a steady job are told a 4th child is too much. These are the real difficulties, and we commit ourselves to help overcoming them. In these centres for Help to Life, they rediscover the choice of choosing life without any conditioning, without any judgment. Problems, what were problems for others, today have a name and they have a face. Those problems, in 40 years of activities in my centre, Manjagali, have become 26,812 children. The data was updated to yesterday. We count every child because each number represents a precious, unique, and unrepeatable life. There's other centres in Italy, we count over 285,000, and if we add them to the European centres, even more. No woman has ever regretted having welcomed life. Life is always good news, as Carlo Casini testified with his life and with his works. He was one of the founders of One of Us. Our daily commitment does not just respond to material needs, but actually develops and helps and accompanies the person. It's not a question of replacing the woman, but standing next to her, setting up a route that will allow her to realize that she has resources, possibilities, a future. For 18 months, we offer legal support, psychological support, group meetings, courses before birth and afterwards, meetings on weaning, on feeding for parents, orientation back into the labour market, made to measure courses for leading to autonomy and social integration. And in certain cases, we can find temporary hospitality in one of our centres. It's not just a roof over your head, it's a home. It's hope, it's a stepping stone to the future. Our work also takes place in schools, in universities, promoting a culture of responsibility, solidarity, and respect for human life. Behind this commitment, it's not just this vocation for solidarity, but a network of professionals. All our operators are qualified specialists, psychologists, social services, medical consultants, legal consultants. Each woman is accompanied, never judged. Each story is unique and deserves respect. Even when everything seems to go wrong, you are still a person. We can't cancel the freedom to ask for help, like someone swimming in a frozen sea, who is sick in hospital, who walks in fear in the streets. The freedom to ask for help is one of the fundamental rights. For me, it would be a deep wound to hear, if only I'd known you could have helped me, I would have kept my child. If a woman is not self-sufficient, is their life less worthy? Isn't it a life that comes close to us? If you are hidden in the first days of life, in the mother's womb, is your life not worthwhile? There are still people like we are. Someone who has been conceived is one of us. Dignity is not a prize. It's an identity card that is never ending. It's what remains intact in all circumstances, all conditions, all difficulties. There's a principle that guides our work, and it is entirely European. The dignity of the person is sacred and unalienable. Too often, maternity is considered a private thing. It isn't. It's the responsibility of the community. It's a question of social justice. An equitable society does not leave women alone when they are most vulnerable. We'll accompany them, we'll support them, and we'll recognize their courage. I would like to invite you from this Parliament to recognise and support all those situations that defend women, accompanying women without ever replacing her, but believing in her worth and her potential, because each woman who is listened to is something that in a society that is recovering, that takes care of its more fragile members, and every new birth is something for all of us. Protecting a child and the child's mother is our responsibility. That child is the only real hope we have for the future of for the whole world. We are pro bono associations. We find it difficult to find resources to respond to these increasing cries for help, who are based on our own strength and on the solidarity of our citizens. We need immediate and factual actions. We'd like to ask the MEPs from all parties to protect the rights of children from the moment of conception. The real freedom of choice starts from real alternatives that are dignified and full of solidarity. The protection of life is not an ideology, it's it's society. It involves us all. The European Parliament can make the difference, translating local good practices such as centres for the protection of life in an ideology of protection and freedom. For this reason, we'd like to ask a European fund for supporting fragile maternity for the member states to promote and finance these centres for help for life, homes for welcome and services to accompany pregnant women who are in a vulnerable condition, recognizing European recognition of these centres as good social practice for support to the family and to the conceived baby, and support for pregnancy and parents, the protection of an EU framework for supporting fragile maternity, obliging member states to find homes for pregnant women who are marginalized, integrating social services, public services with other infrastructures, protecting women from pressures that are economic or social which limit their right to choice, adding services for fragile maternity within the social inclusion European programs aimed at giving direct financial support to women, to pregnant women in danger, facilitating entry to the labour market and to courses of education at the European level, promoting within Erasmus, Creative Europe and others, campaigns, school projects and informational material so that will enhance maternity and paternity, the respect for the new life, support to the family, consistent with the principles of the Fundamental Rights Charter of the European Union. Today, within the heart of European democracy, we must remember that Europe is not just an economic and political project. It is, first of all, a humane program. It's a dream of peace, which was born from the ashes of the war. It is a collective womb that welcomes us and protects the future, because Europe is not born from the strength of weapons, but from the strength of the heart, from the desire to live together and to generate hope. And there's no stronger image for this hope than the womb of a mother. Each mother holds within herself life and within herself hope. In the silence of her body, the future arises. There's a new heart that doesn't know any borders or any nations, and there, in the most simple and universal gesture, that we will find the deep feeling of our being a Europe, a union which never stops believing in life. Thank you.
Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here today and for bearing testimony today, but for everything that you do every single day. I remember last year there were people from the University of Milan. They were violent. They wouldn't let you express your views, your experience, and what you do on a daily basis and your opinions. But we will continue to give a voice to these types of experiences, to you and to all of those that are denied a voice. Thank you, and all the best in your work.
Thank you so much, Charlène, Nirvana, and Soemia. You are helping us to be connected with reality, with real life. Without you, we wouldn't able to work. Each of us, I am able to fall in ideology if I am not connected with your life and experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just before welcoming the second panel, we will have a short glimpse with legal and political perspective. I am very happy to welcome now Dr. Nicola Bauer. Nicola Bauer, you are an advocacy officer at the European Center for Law and Justice, an NGO accredited to the United Nations and a member of one of us. You hold a PhD in law and also teaches at the University of Strasbourg. During the debate in France, you all remember on the constitutionalization of abortion, you initiated a group of women who testified before members of parliament about their sufferings after having an abortion. This morning, you will speak on support for maternity from a European law perspective. Thank you, Nicolas, to be here.
Merci beaucoup, Ségolène. Merci, Madame la députée.
Thank you very much, Ségolène. Thank you to the members of parliament. Thank you to Mr. Insalvini for having invited us here. I will be very brief because I can see that we are slightly behind schedule. I will give my remarks in 3 minutes.
Charlène, Nirvana, vous avez eu le...
Charlène, Nirvana, you were brave, shared your personal stories with us. Thank you. Your abortions were forced on you. They were painful experiences that left you isolated. We cannot say that the petition is true. Abortion was not your voice, not your choice. 92% of women feel that abortion is a painful experience with lasting side effects. It seems like a right. It is presented as a right, my voice, my choice, but that ignores the facts and the child, the psychological lasting effects of an abortion. I hope that your voices will be heard. Your presence here puts the Parliament in front of a difficult choice. How do you support motherhood, support families? All children have fathers too, and they need to bear responsibility. I'm thinking of Italy here and the other side of the Atlantic, the US. The European Union also has its part to play, not to replace member states, but to support them. The European Union can support and coordinate, use those powers to support families and motherhood. We talk about the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. It sets out rights for women and children. I will not run through them all here, but I will mention Article 33 that stipulates that family protection must be provided in legal, economic and social terms. In each article in the Charter, the European Union has funding programmes. So what funding programmes do you have to support families under Article 33? I have found one good programme, a support programme for families in Italy. That is a support programme for poor, isolated families to help with education of children and families. The support is available for 2 years. And many who benefited felt that it was useful. But this is just one out of hundreds of programmes. If you look at the hundreds of other programmes, they receive far greater support. The Italian programme is an isolated case, nothing since. Often you see ideologically driven programmes programmes that support and promote abortion. Allow me to finish up with an appeal. 10 years ago, some 10 million Europeans signed One of Us initiative to protect unborn life. Today, we would like to repeat that call. We are all taxpayers. We do not want our money to go towards supporting abortion. We want EU funding to be used wisely to support motherhood, to support families. This is the greatest return on investment that you can find in Europe. A number of representatives of One of Us are here this morning. We're active throughout Europe. We struggle to find resources, but we could be a good partner for European programme. The European Union has powers to support families and motherhood, and we would like the European Union to make that a priority. Thank you.
Microphone for the speaker, please.
Merci beaucoup, Nicolas.
Thank you very much, Nicolas, for your very direct and compelling assessment, as is the case for the ECLJ, generally speaking. Ms. Dear Laurence, you will be moderating the second panel, and for which we are happy.
Spain. And Clara from Slovenia is at the hospital this morning. She was not able to travel to Brussels yesterday, and we are very pleased to welcome Anna Maria to be able to read Clara's testimony. Laurence, je vous laisse la parole.
Go ahead, Laurence.
Merci, Ségolène. Nous allons effectivement.
Thank you very much, Ségolène. Indeed, in this second roundtable, we will be hearing from other witnesses. You will see that they really shed light on a word, I think, that has been underpinning everything that we've heard up until now, i.e. violence. Violence of isolation, violence of pressure, and trauma. This trauma that follows an abortion. And that is a part of the initial violence. That means that the reality of pregnancy, we heard a woman say previously, it was, the words that were uttered were, it's just a pile of cells. But when you take a pregnancy test, we know that in 8.5 months, we know that a kitten won't be born. We know what is happening within our bodies at that time, and the inability to recognize the reality of a child and the ban of using the word child or baby and the denial that springs from this. And it illustrates this lack of choice that women are victims of. And I think that we should really try to find a way to flip the use of words. There are a lot of things that are happening around the use of words. So I'm pleased today to welcome 3 women, one where we will have a written statement that will be read because the individual is unwell and cannot be here, currently undergoing a miscarriage, as it were. And I'd like to let perhaps Anna Maria, or in order, I don't know what we were planning, maybe we could let Leire, who's coming to us from Spain, who is going to give us a bit of information about her background. It is a path of life. Without giving away too much, Leire is a former feminist who discovered this violence of abortion and will talk to us about this trauma that follows her around. And she was able to take her experience and turn it into an activism that is beautiful activism to assist hundreds of women who are experiencing similar trauma. Go ahead, Leire. The floor is yours.
Hola.
Good morning. Thank you. You describe me as a former feminist. Well, I think I'm more of a feminist than ever, spending all my time supporting women. Good morning. I'm here as a mother as a woman to bear witness to a reality that Europe cannot keep ignoring. Vulnerable pregnant women are being abandoned by institutions. There is no acknowledgement of care for the trauma we experience after an abortion. My story is similar to that of many women. From puberty onwards, I saw myself as a supposed empowered feminist. I wasn't a true feminist. I was sexually liberal and dabbled in drugs and promiscuity. At 26 years of age, my partner left me pregnant. I saw motherhood as a life sentence. I had no doubts. I went for an abortion as easily as I would get a wax, a painful procedure that afterwards would allow me to continue on my merry way. I felt relieved to get rid of the mass of cells that would force me to be a mother. A year later, I was pregnant again, a supposedly unwanted pregnancy. But within minutes after talking to my psychotherapist, I realised that I really wanted this baby. I understood that a pregnant woman was already a mother. Once I realised that, I embraced a future filled with light and hope. At my first checkup, I heard my child's heartbeat. I was overwhelmed with emotion. At my next checkup, I was told that my child had died. There was no heartbeat. I was unable to deal with this new death. I wrapped myself up in denial. When 7 years ago, I shared my story as a mother with 2 unborn children and another child in my arms, I did not expect a flood of women getting in touch with me to share their painful experiences. They knew I would understand them, not judge them. Behind each abortion, you will find a woman racked with pain, loneliness, lack of love. And if you dig deeper, in most cases, you will find abuse and violence. When a woman continues with her pregnancy, the system abandons her. Your body, your choice. If she decides to continue with the pregnancy, there is no public protection or support. Institutions ignore her. Spain claims to promote equality, policies of equality. But where is the equality when a woman continuing a pregnancy is left alone to grapple with fear, pressure, threats, male violence, a precarious existence? For years, I've supported many women that would have liked to have their children, and they faced a lack of understanding, no social resources. The healthcare professionals pointed them towards an abortion without explaining or checking whether they were under pressure or explaining the consequences. And sometimes there are lasting effects. They're left sterile or face a greater risk of miscarriage. Europe claims to guarantee human rights, but thousands of women are forced to choose between motherhood and survival. The problem is not access to free abortion, but a lack of true freedom. That is why that choice is sometimes made. There's no real freedom if you have fear, institutional neglect, emotional blackmail, lack of information. During my first pregnancy, abortion was presented to me as a quick solution, consequence-free. Nobody told me that it was more than a mass of cells. If I'd had an ultrasound, I would have seen what I saw during my second pregnancy, the beating heart of my daughter. Nobody checked whether I knew what I was doing. Nobody talked to me about what would happen afterwards. I left that clinic and the silence was suffocating from family, healthcare professionals. It was as if nothing had happened, but my daughter was taken from me. For years, I kept busy. I shut myself off from my emotions, could not deal with the trauma, but my body, my soul had not forgotten it. Abortion is traumatic. It is a violent procedure interrupting a natural process underway in your body. After this kind of disruption, you may experience anxiety, depression, insomnia, guilt, infertility, emotional shutdown. there is no care from the system before, during or after an abortion. I can't speak for other countries, but in Spain there are no public programs to help these women. There are no protocols in place to prevent forced abortion, which is defined as a crime in the abortion law. That law is not enforced to protect women who are forced to undergo an abortion. There is no informed consent. There is no training for healthcare professionals to identify post-abortion trauma. Those that speak up about it, well, we are discredited, we are censored. Biology defies ideology. A woman's nature is universal, and it's not about politics or religion. The ideology that has been imposed ignores our reality, and that is unfair. It hurts us. Thousands of European women mourn in silence for their unborn children. They would have continued with their pregnancies if public support had been available. In my country, there's 10 times more investment in abortion than in pregnant women. Is that true equality? The main discrimination you face is not gender-based, but pregnancy-based. Many of us are mistreated, rejected, scorned. Europe needs to be consistent, be feminist. If you're defending women's rights, it's not just about defending the right to abortion, but the right to not go through with an abortion. The freedom of choice means that it has to be a true freedom. If women wish to continue with a pregnancy, they should be able to do so in decent conditions, no fear of losing their job, their security, their stability. Women need transparent information. We need all the guarantees in place that ensure informed consent. If I had been told that one of the effects of an abortion could be a greater risk of miscarriage, losing my left ovary, I would have changed my mind. We need policies that protect women, mothers during their pregnancy, and to help them deal with post-trauma abortion. We need support for vulnerable pregnant women. Often they cannot find homes to rent. They cannot find jobs, and abortion leaves deep wounds. That is being ignored. And here in the European Parliament, I'm calling on you to face facts, to legislate with compassion, human vision, with policies that allow women to experience their full dignity and experience true freedom. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Lere, for this testimonial. Now, we are running behind schedule. We're running out of time. It's somewhat frustrating, but I'm going to just give the floor straight to Clara or the Anna Maria, who will be speaking on Clara's behalf. And I wish Clara to get well soon, because we can understand that she's experiencing something that's very difficult at this time.
A short version of Clara's testimony.
Na božični večer me je fant povabil.
It was Christmas Eve when my boyfriend invited me out, and on that evening we had our first intercourse. We didn't have protection, but we were careful. 3 weeks later, my period was late. I did a test and found out that I was pregnant. I called the father of my baby and told him. We had a conversation whether or not to have an abortion. He told me that he will stand by my side regardless of my decision. In the end, he still whispered, "Let's have it. Let's keep it." And an alarm went off. I had tunnel vision telling me that I need to have an abortion. A rebellion was born in me, and I was deeply afraid. I called my gynecologist and asked her to have an abortion. When I did my checkup, they told me that the baby was healthy and that everything was okay. The nurse told me to see the image on the ultrasound screen, but I averted my eyes. I looked away. She wanted to stop me. I knew that I was about to commit a grave mistake. I never believed that I only carry a bunch of cells in me. I knew that this was my child. I knew that from now on I will suffer, but fear and insecurity outweighed this sentiment. I was frozen. The nurse gave me the picture, the ultrasound picture of my child, and I only managed to look at it 9 years after my abortion. The same nurse also gave me the abortion pill. The expression on her face showed a big disappointment. Even today, I can remember her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" they seemed to say. I left the hospital as a traitor to our child and a mother who was not up to task. When I left the hospital, I called the father of the aborted child and told him, "It's done." Back then, the real hell actually began for me. The abortion was the beginning of my relationship with the father of the aborted child, but in the next 2.5 years, it never really took off. It sort of hovered over, above, and between us. I went into a deep depression. I would spend hours just focusing on a single point on a wall. And back then, an autoimmune disease activated itself in my body, and I still have this. I merely existed. My thoughts wanted to repair what had been done. I fantasized about a different outcome. Maybe the father tells me to keep the child. I hug him. When the gynecologist tells me to change my mind, I never think back. When the nurse tells me to look at the screen, I look at it. And I cry with tears of happiness. When the nurse gives me the abortion pills, I throw them away. My head wanted to change this story, wanted to change my experience. And I actually managed to convince myself at one point that I had never done it. But the reality was empty lap, empty hands. After several years, I listened to testimonies from Rachel's Vineyard on the radio, and I applied immediately. These were not ordinary spiritual exercises, but a special grace. When you feel that with every minute passed, your body, your heart heals. The heart that has spent several decades of agony in your chest, that now under God's hand and under the auspices of Rachel's Vineyard team started finally to forgive itself. And this was helped by psychotherapy as well, and a personal relationship with God that I have been cultivating in the last 3 years. I've been reading the scriptures daily. I've been praying daily. After the spiritual exercises in the framework of Rachel's Vineyard, I started perceiving my pain differently. I also named my child, which formed a deep connection with my child. This was not merely an aborted child. This was my son, Nathan.
Globoka želja je, da
If I aborted one life, I hope that I will be able to save at least one by God's grace. This shouldn't be just a story about pain, but a testimony of God's love and of the love I have for Nathan. Thank you.
Je me tourne.
Now I'd like to give the floor to Anna.
Vous travaillez comme agent immobilier.
You are here from Portugal. You are a real estate agent, but 6 years ago you had an unplanned pregnancy, and you have a wonderful experience when you go turn to an emergency number at a hospital. And I'd like you to share now your experience with us, this step in your life, and to tell us how you came to this huge change in your life. Thank you.
Anna Mafalda est son prénom.
Her name is Anna Mafalda. Apologies, says Ms. Trochu. Members of the Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, I speak to you today as a European citizen, a woman, and the single mother of 4 daughters, a teenager, and triplets who, today, of all days, are celebrating their 6th birthday. Now, my heart is divided between Brussels and home, but that makes me think about everything that got us to this point. The pregnancy the triplets came at a very difficult time. The father did not want to be involved, and we didn't want to meet them, and I found myself alone, and at times I felt afraid, vulnerable, and isolated. Now, I know what it looks like to look to the future and not know if I will be able to do it. I was overwhelmed by fear, and I made an appointment for a voluntary termination of pregnancy. The rational part of me was asking myself, how are you going to manage having 3 daughters at once? What will people say, those who look down on single mothers? What about work? What about, will you be able to do it? You have to have an abortion. Now, the appointments are extremely cold and mechanical. Abortion is almost treated as an administrative process. We sign a paper, set a date, and no one asks us, how are you feeling? Do you know what support is out there? What are your doubts? I believe that many women leave these appointments feeling more alone than when they came in, and this is not freedom. This is being abandoned. We need a system that respects women's conscience, one that provides them with complete information and support. The right to information is part of the right to choose. I also made an appointment with a private provider, hoping for better care, where they didn't even tell me that I was going to have triplets, claiming that it would make my decision more difficult. But whose responsibility was the decision? Was it mine or the healthcare professionals? At times, I just wasn't sure. In the waiting room of a public hospital, I saw a poster, Support for Life. I called without high expectations. I was greeted by a voice that immediately welcomed me, a calm voice, understanding, that was finally available to listen to me with my fears and my anxieties. They welcomed me without judgment, with unconditional support regardless of my decision. They mobilized an entire support network to ensure that my daughters and I would have everything that we needed in the early stages of life. They restored my confidence, and they gave me some time to breathe and made me see what I was capable of and that I could do it. This existence of support for life was fundamental to my decision. And on that last day, it was possible for me to have an abortion with a nurse holding my medication in her hand. I managed to say no, and that I would continue on with the pregnancy. I would keep my babies, fighting for myself and for them. Now, if it hadn't been for this organization, my decision would probably have been different. And that is why on the 6th birthday of my daughters, I feel this is an achievement for them too. And Support for Life also should be congratulated. My girls are the fruit, I'm sorry, I'm going to cry. They are the fruit of this organization's commitment and dedication. There is an urgent need for more life support organizations across Europe that welcome and accompany women in crisis, making all the difference for these women, not because they decide for them, but because they believe in them. These organizations show that public policy should be that no woman is abandoned in her pain and no decision should be made in silence. My daughters are the greatest gift of my life, but many mothers give up their dreams because they fear a lack of support. Now, if we want motherhood to be celebrated and not feared, then we need policies that will support mothers in providing care from day one. In today's Europe, being a mother is an act of resistance. We talk about freedom of choice, but lest we forget, this freedom requires certain conditions. Many women choose abortion because they want to, not because they want to, but because they see no alternative, because the state, society, sometimes even their own families push them into silence. They don't have housing, they don't have affordable childcare, family-friendly working hours to support their support networks. I have felt the weight of all of these absences, the bureaucracy to get the bare minimum, fighting for places in nurseries and daycares, working with 3 babies at home without rest or answers. What hurts is the tiredness. It's not the tiredness, it's the indifference. It's the feeling that motherhood is seen as a problem, not a pillar of society. We live in a society where women are still discriminated against with poor working conditions because of their ability to bear children. We live in a Europe that values productivity over presence and does not understand that the time a mother devotes to her children is an investment in society. Members of Parliament, Europe needs a perspective on motherhood, one that combines rights, social responsibility, and dignity. It is not enough to guarantee access to abortion. We must also guarantee support for life if that is the woman's choice. I would like to make an appeal to you. European study revealed that 67% of mothers feel overwhelmed.
Ok. 55% mudaram o seu...
55% changed their professional status after giving birth, and 50% suffer from mental health problems. It would be essential to create a European maternity observatory to collect data and a European directive for comprehensive care during pregnancy, before, during, and after childbirth, providing financial support to organizations like Support for Life for those women who decide to keep their baby, or those who have chosen to terminate, or those who are still unsure what to do. Abortion is a choice that each woman should make in a safe environment. We need to have support for women to choose life. Value motherhood as a social and economic asset by creating support policies, fair tax policies for large and single-parent families, and enhanced protection measures for working mothers. A Europe that needs a higher birth rate cannot continue to punish those who have children. Promote European training programs for health professionals so that every woman is treated with empathy and information rather than haste and silence. On this, the 6th anniversary of my triplets, I remember the fear that I felt when I found out I was expecting them, but stronger than fear was love, the love that turns into courage when someone believes in us. I believe in a Europe that does not give up on its mothers, and as a mother, my greatest wish is for my daughters to grow up in a Europe where being a woman does not mean facing everything alone. It is from us that this future is born. Thank you to Apoyo a Vida, Support for Life, represented here by Mafalda, for being part of our story. Thank you to my parents for supporting us unconditionally, to my daughter Ines for teaching me how to be a mother, and to the triplets for showing me what it means to be resilient. I am extremely proud of the women I am raising, hoping that they will grow up in a fairer world where we all have the same opportunities and freedom of choice. There is something symbolic about this moment. They were born in the morning, and I got to meet them in the evening. Today, also in the evening,
Também de noite,
also this evening, when I return to Portugal,
com o pé da Mafalda da Apoio a Vida.
I'm sorry, I promised myself I wouldn't cry. I will hug them again with the same emotion as that first encounter, with the certainty that every life is worth the effort, dedication, and courage. Congratulations to Alice, Maria, and Sophia on your wonderful 6 years.
Tous ces applaudissements.
That thunderous round of applause is a birthday gift for your triplets, to whom you gave the gift of life. That brings us to the end of our second panel. We heard about motherhood, love, fear, laughter, tears. Our institutional work here in the European Parliament is geared towards providing you with the right conditions to allow you to smile more than you laugh. You underscored the role of men, the fathers, the image of women as mothers in society. You can count on us. We will work on your behalf. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Laurence.
Thank you, Laurence.
Clara, Ana Maria, Ileire. You expressed calls, appeals to the European institutions, and to make those calls and appeals concrete and real, I thank you so much, and I call now to come here 3 European parliamentaries, Christophe Gomard from France, Matej Tonin from Slovenia, and Isabel Benjumea from Spain. Christophe. Christophe, merci beaucoup d'être avec nous.
Thank you, Christophe, for joining us this morning. You are an army general, headed up military education in France. You were elected to the European Parliament in 2024, and you will address our gathering here this morning.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Good morning to you all. My dear friends, I am touched to give a closing statement after a moving morning focusing on motherhood. As a man, motherhood has had a lasting effect on my life through my mother, then my wife. Motherhood has been an enriching experience. I therefore speak from experience in my concluding remarks this morning. A child is a gift, a wonderful gift, often a demanding one. Motherhood may be difficult. We have heard that. It comes with tiredness. It can be precarious. There can be moments of loneliness, but that does not undermine a child's dignity. A child is a gift for his or her mother and for humanity as a whole. It should be welcomed and supported. Motherhood is something that we need to welcome. It is a gift. And how can you have a mother without a father? We have heard from many mothers this morning. The role played by the father is crucial. Often there are 2 people making that decision, that choice. It's not easy to be a father. A father may be in a fragile position. We heard a lot about unwanted pregnancies. I deeply welcomed my children, as did my wife. I welcomed their arrival, even though I myself did not carry them and bring them to life. But we need support for parents. My wife and I went about parenthood in a different way. We opted for adoption. It is a subliminal experience. We did not undergo a 9-month pregnancy. It took us 10 years, over 10 years, to become parents. I do apologise, I'm getting quite emotional here. For 10 years, we were tested, we lived with hope, we waited, we chose parenthood. And that is only possible if society provides the right conditions. And that is a collective responsibility. As Benedict XVI said, society should help families to welcome children, protect them. The role played by politicians is key. The European Parliament must answer the call. The Commission needs to become more proactive. We need to support motherhood and ensure a generous, encouraging environment. This is a journey that begins well before birth. You express a desire to have a child, to start a family. Thank you to all mothers, all those who have supported me one way or the other. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Christophe.
Thank you, Christophe. Your voice is vital in Europe and in France. It is now a great pleasure to give the floor to Matej Tonin.
Slovenia. You were a member of Slovenian National Assembly from 2011. You have been Minister of Defense and Deputy Prime Minister in your country. You are married and father of three children. Thank you so much, Matej. You are here to express the strong commitment of Slovenia today in this conference. A large group from your country was able to come, and we are very proud of the testimony from Clara. Thank you, Matej.
I have a great speech. Maybe I will read it in the end, but because you were all so personal and you shared great testimonies, it's maybe difficult for me to share one testimony with you as well, but I will try. So I have 3 children, and with the last one, with Oshbay, there were some kind of, let's say, problems. The initial test, the gynecologist wasn't very well. And the gynecologist proposed an abortion. So it was, I have to say, tough months for me and for my wife, because we decided for life. And today, luckily, thanks God, Oshbay is a healthy boy. And my simple message to all great doctors and gynecologists is, don't propose such things. It's painful, it's destroying the pregnancy, just support the life. Simple as that. And now back to the speech. So allow me first to thank the fellow members of the Parliament and the organizers of this event, one of us, and all the participants who have shared their reflection and exceptional testimonies. Hearing directly from women and families across Europe remind us of something very simple, yet often overlooked. Real freedom of choice begins with real support. Throughout this morning, we have heard moving personal stories. No woman should ever feel alone, pressured or abandoned during pregnancy or early motherhood. We must work towards a society where choosing life and welcoming a child is not an act of courage against the odds, but a decision that is embraced and supported. As a member of the European Parliament, we have a duty to promote policies that reflect our conviction that the family is the cornerstone of our societies. That means, first, strengthening maternity protection and family-friendly employment conditions. Second, supporting access to a quality healthcare before, during and after birth. 3, encouraging measures that reconcile work and family life. And 4, ensuring that the social economic structures values motherhood as a contribution to society and nothing else. So Europe is facing a demographic challenge, but more deeply, we face a challenge of confidence. Confidence that every child is welcome, that every woman can pursue her aspiration without sacrificing her motherhood, and that every family will find a network of care and solidarity around them. Let us continue to build a Europe that empowers women not by denying motherhood, but by valuing and supporting it. A Europe where compassion, responsibility, and hope translate into concrete action. Thank you all for your commitment, for your testimonies, and for reminding us today that behind every policy debate, there are real lives, real families, and the real future. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you to have helped us to make this conference a reality. It was a huge challenge 6 months ago to think we will have this huge room of nearly 300 seats full of people coming from all over Europe, and as you can see, full of young people who are our present and our future. Thanks to the amazing mobilizations of all the one of us members, NGO members all over Europe, and for you, members of European Parliament, it is so important. You are our connection with politics, and you are the one who will be to make those calls and appeals real. Now, to conclude with our President, Tonio Borg, we will ask you to sign a declaration to make this maternity support right in Europe concrete. Please, Marion, or Moutia, or Antoine, I'm very happy to thank the One of Us team now. Please come here too, and we will need pencils and to be able to sign the declaration, please. And to make an egg pictures, we'll all with Leire, Nirvana, Charlène, Soemia, all of you who are, Mafalda, who have given your testimony, Anna Maria for Clara, to come and sign this declaration. Merci. Yes, you, Antonio, then.
Ségolène. Can I play a lullaby now?
Come and sign.
Oh yeah, I have to sign. I could play.
I shall
So-
read.
Yes, please.
So, at the end of the signatures, I am going to read out the declaration, and then I'll make some short concluding remarks. Signed? Okay. The declaration reads as follows. We, women who have experienced vulnerable pregnancies and prenatal loss, together with members of the European Parliament, call on the European institutions to promote the right to maternity support as recognised in the EU's legal framework and fundamental rights instruments. Together, let us foster a culture that supports maternity and defends the dignity of all human life. Guided by the principles of the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union, in particular Article 3 on the integrity of the person and Article 33 on the protection of the family and maternity, we urge the European Union to, 1, improve the legal provisions on maternity support, 2, guarantee equal access in all member states to maternity support for women facing difficulties, and 3, promote policies that respect and protect human life from conception. Okay? Now, allow me to make some concluding remarks. It's not easy, because there have been so many wonderful interventions that it's very difficult to summarize what has been a wonderful event. A wonderful event. We weren't expecting so many people to come in spite of all the difficulties, and we are happy to have seen so many young people, which shows that the right to human life still has an important future in the European Union. But what a meeting it has been. What a wonderful meeting it has been. But the heroes or heroines of this meeting are those women who had the courage to come here with us and share their experiences, showing that, after all, contrary to popular belief, abortion in most cases is not a free choice. We applauded you, but we cried with you. But they were tears of love, not tears of sadness. We felt sad with you when we saw how cruel human beings can be to other human beings. And therefore, today's event, thanks to your testimonials, thanks to your addresses, and you needed courage to come here and share your experience. We admire that courage. The message is, this is not the end. This is not just the end of a 2-hour meeting. We came here and we go back home. This is the beginning of something new. This is the beginning of something new. therefore, this energy which we have seen, this enthusiasm which we have seen, should lead us to a galvanization of European public opinion. Our executive committee already met yesterday for a short period of time. We are meeting again next week to see how to collect, to galvanize this enthusiasm into something more concrete, with initiatives which still have to be discussed, but which I am sure when they will be announced, they will meet with your support in the same way as our call for action today met your support. So the message, and I conclude with this thought, the message to everyone who is listening to us, who is watching us, is there are millions of European citizens who feel that the right to life is not being protected enough, and that maternity is being treated, even in this institution, sometimes as a problem and not a value. Maternity is a European value. We need to promote it, we need to finance it, and we are going to make it sure, thanks to our MEPs who were so important in the organization of this meeting, we are sure to make our voice heard. Because the unborn child doesn't have a voice, so we shall be the voice of the unborn child. Thank you very much. Yes. Bravo.
Those who want, we can have lunch now in the restaurant of the European Parliament downstairs. We can enter freely until 12:45. Then we have to run until 11:45. Sorry. Slovakian people are asked in the desk, please. Close to Miriam.
And then we're out.